Lance Hall here for Let's Discuss with Lance Hall. Happy to welcome Lee and Pete of the band Blood Red Saints to the program tonight. They have a new album called Undisputed out on Frontiers Records. It is fantastic. Good evening, gentlemen. How are you doing?
Good, hello. How are you doing, Lance?
So we can sort of differentiate voices. Why don't you each introduce so we will know who we're chatting with?
So my name's Lee, and you can probably tell because I've got a very broad accent. This is Pete.
And I'm Pete, and I haven't got a deep voice, so I'm the difference.
All right, there we go. Album released last Friday, August 6th. Getting rave reviews on it. You guys have to be pretty thrilled with the response so far.
We are, yeah. It's been quite a lot of good reviews, so can't say better than that, can you?
No.
One of those you dream of.
Yeah. I understand this was recordedly at your house.
It's I've got like a studio at the like a room set aside to like a man cave. It's a man cave really with a studio in it.
Right. And were these all new songs, or did you have some old snippets from things, or how did these songs come about?
Well, how long have you got? Have you got a bit of time? Oh, good. Well, basically, we started off with sort of a fresh idea of, right, we're going to write just a straight melodic rock album. We're not going to try and change the world. We're not going to try and do what we did in sort of like the last two albums. We're going to try and keep straight, just like the lights off Speedway, the first album. So when we started sort of hitting the songs, we were getting going and we're thinking, right, these are all sounding okay. I'm demoing stuff, sending it to Pete. But in the process of that, we also had a couple of songs, and was it one riff, one guitar riff, wasn't it, for This Ain't a Love Song? The guitar riff in that has been sat around for three years, something like that, and we never finished it. So I'll let Pete take this story up, but this is basically what we were doing.
So, yeah, on the second album, so that was 2017, he came up with this riff, the one that is the opening track on this thing. And, you know, sometimes you hear something, you're like, oh, my God, that's fantastic. And we tried to make a song out of it. And we couldn't get anything that we thought stood up to it. If you see, you know, if nothing that sort of stood up to the riff. Everything I came up with was rubbish, right? So we put it on the back burner. And then, like Lee said, we started writing this new one, the one that's just come out. And we were like, we did Heaven in the Headlights first. So we were like, oh, we're just going to have to do a melodic rock album because that's where we're from. You know, that's what we grew up with.
80s boys.
And all that stuff. So me and him have tried to reinvent the wheel, like Lee said, and tried to be Shinedown stroke Nickelback, and it just hasn't worked. Mm-hmm. So we went back to what we thought we were decent at, and he had this. And I had another song that ended up on the album, the Breathe Again one, which almost made the first album, but again we couldn't get it how we wanted. So with us being in lockdown last year, we were doing lots of stuff over Dropbox. You know, sort of Lee would send files over and go have a listen to this. All along in the 5-6 years we've been doing it, it'd be like, I've got an idea. It's a little bit Wingerish, or it's a bit Def Leppard, or whatever it may be. And then twice on this album, he messaged me and he was just like, Dropbox. And I'm like, no sort of like rider on it. No, you're going to write this one pretending you're Kip Winger. First one was This Ain't a Love Song, and he'd finished all the music for it. And it was like, oh my God, this is like exactly what I dreamed of. And then, like I said, Breathe Again was 6 years old, and he did the same thing. He tried to get it right, and we'd sort of blown it out loads of times. And then, he nailed it, and it was as it was on the record, just how we wanted it.
Turned it just the right way.
So, a song that's 6-year-old and a song that's 3-year-old, in effect, on a new album.
Yeah.
The timing was right, though, you know, and that's, you know,
we
all know life is timing, you know?
Yeah, and the feel of the album just sort of, they just fit, you know, they wouldn't have fit on the last one. Because, you know, we thought we were Shinedown.
And it was good. when we did make that conscious effort to keep it in that same vein, it actually ended up sort of rolling quite quick. Apart from the two that were older, they all sort of seemed to just drop in and work, and then, okay, we'll leave that then. Let's move on to the next bit. So it's always nice when it goes that process. It doesn't always go that way, but it's nice when it goes that way and it turns out okay.
Let's jump into a few of the songs. I made some notes on a few of them. I listened to the album a couple of times. Just a fantastic one. We're going to start out with This Ain't a Love Song. First words I wrote were, holy shit.
That's nice to hear. Thank you very much for the lunch. We owe you a beer.
I mean, that totally complimentary. Holy, it opened up with like that fanfare. You had the whistle. Pete's vocal comes in. I was like, holy shit, this is great, you know? And then, of course, yesterday, you guys released a fantastic video for the song.
Good. Glad you liked it.
Forget Motley Crue, Girls, Girls, Girls. Check out This Ain't a Love Song by Blood Red Saints.
You know, we've always said, honest to God, we need a stripper song, right? Now, we don't have strip joints in Britain, really.
No, we don't.
but we think we're American. We think we're 25 as well, by the way. Right?
Yes, yeah.
But we were always like, we need a stripper song. Like, stripper songs are great and all that stuff. And we did that song, and I'm like, oh, this is a stripper song. And I wrote the cheesiest lyrics I've ever written in my life, right? And then we had to submit 2 videos for Frontiers. So we shot 2 real videos, and then we made 3 lyric videos, and they blew them all out. They didn't want to release them. So we did that one off our own back because we're just like, well, I like it, so I'm putting it out, you know, one of them sort of things. But yeah, so
our dream since 25-year-old, or probably a bit earlier than that, innit, is to play the Sunset Strip. So to go to America, not just the Sunset Strip, Lance, every goddamn state in America, you know what I mean?
I hear you.
We'll have that dream, and when we get to 80 and we haven't done it, then we might stop. Might realize that we can't do that.
Oh, very cool. Heaven in the Headlights. Again, you know, we're talking about the 80s, and when I think of the 80s, the word I always bring up the most is fun. And that is just a fun song. Was Heaven in the Headlights, was it a little bit of a play on the tune Paradise by the Dashboard Light, or was it just your own deal?
No, it wasn't that.
It wasn't that. I'd be dead honest with you. No, it was. Well, I'll let you say it because I just finished the track, didn't I? And sent it.
Again, he sent that track. And like I said, that was the first one. When we said we'd write an album, and he sent that idea across, and I'm like, oh my God, it's like, this is where I want to be. It's sort of, I know it's 35 years out of date, don't get me wrong. You know, we're stuck in a time warp, but it's like, oh, I can do this. And we did the song, and I had a different chorus, and I'm like, don't like the chorus. And that chorus, don't get me wrong, you can tell it sounds like Don't Stop Believing, but mainly because of the words. Yeah. But it's just one of them, you know.
It's a nod, isn't it?
I'm not saying it's a great song because I'm not arrogant, and I don't think we're great, but it's one of them songs where we went, that's a single, you know, that moment. Yeah. It probably wind everybody up after 3 listens, but your first listen, you go, that's catchy. And we don't do that very often.
We're striving to do it, so we're getting there, though. We're getting there.
But Paradise, Dashboard Light, never thought of that.
Yeah.
Just, you know, the way the title was, I thought maybe the title was, I'll play, you know, you got Heaven in the Headlights. You know, being from the 80s, I grew up in the 80s. I have seen Paradise by the Dashboard Light, and I've seen Heaven in the Headlights. So
it's good.
Good call.
And you can't say that subliminally we didn't. You know, it's not affected us, but never made the conscious connection there till you said that.
Very
Thanks.
Cool.
We'll write that down, Lance.
Okay, use it in the interviews from now on. You know, you're going forward. You know, Breathe Again. This song had me 2 seconds into it. You had me completely hooked. Brilliant song. And I want to talk about the video. I saw you guys put up with a note. It was filmed on the coldest night known to man.
Yes, it was.
How cold was it?
For England, it was cold. It was really cold. And we filmed it at the drummer's house, and he lives literally on top of an hill.
Yeah.
Right? And it was snowing, and it was February, and February in Britain, especially in Lancashire, isn't good.
No.
But literally everybody's noses were running. You can see it in the video. It was awful.
Them are not icicles that you see.
But the other thing with that was we were in lockdown. Well, let's say officially we weren't for that one night, but Britain was in lockdown, so you weren't really allowed to meet up. But we had to film a video. So we sort of got everybody in place, and the guy James Aaron that did the video for us, he agreed to do it, but we had to do it that night because we didn't have any other window of opportunity. No, sure. So it was cold,
and we needed to get something done because we couldn't gig it, so you needed at least to have a decentish video. So.
And rock and roll is all about rebellion anyway, so you got to rebel against the law and go and shoot the video,
Yeah.
I'm liking you more and more, Lance. I'm liking you more and more.
Caught in the Wreckage, and this was, I noticed this throughout the album, but I really jumped out on me on this song. You guys have incredible harmonies. The way you guys harmonize is fantastic, and it really jumped out on me on Caught in the Wreckage. I'm trying to understand, you talk about sending files back and forth. So I take it and with this lockdown, there was never a time where the four of you were in the studio together, singing, playing, or doing anything?
No, not four of us.
Wow.
No.
So difficult. Everything was put together through files, sharing all these harmonies. Each guy was singing his own, and then it all had to be spliced together.
Yeah, because you have sort of certain ways of doing things. So once you start to get into a certain way, you have to go, especially with lockdown. You had to go a certain way, which was we just have to do it the best way forward. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there was a couple of times, like me and Lee would get together. Well, I'll say a couple of times, quite a few times. We got together, but there was no time when the band got together. It was bizarre.
Yeah.
So I take it you usually in the past when you've recorded, you're all together.
No, it's been basically we do have a lot of ideas bounced around, and then it depends on getting everyone together. A lot of the time, it's really difficult to get everyone together.
It's never, being honest, it's never, is it? It's never four of us.
No.
It's always, you'll be with Andy, you'll be with, whatever.
Rob, yeah.
It's strange that we never.
It's not like the old days.
Yeah, we said a couple of years ago, we had this idea that we'd go and book somewhere, like a lodge retreat or something, and just bang out a load of tunes on together, like we did when we all started in the 80s. You'd go into a rehearsal and sort of go, I've got this idea, and you'd work the idea up, and we've never done it. But I'd love to do it, but the album would probably be absolutely rubbish.
Hey, I've heard that Vermont's really nice to go over and write new material.
Yeah,
it's a beautiful place. I live not very far from Stowe, Vermont, and that's where Deep Purple recorded Perfect Strangers. So,
and how big's your garage?
We'll make it big enough,
Okay, we're in.
That's it. Sold.
The next track, Karma. You talk about songs, as you listen to songs and you're transported. When I was listening to Karma, I was immediately taken back. It was like being in a time machine. I was in my teenage bedroom, and the note I made here was just a kaleidoscope of memories. Some I remembered, some I hadn't thought of in ages. Came back to me between the melody, the song, the lyric. I wrote one lyric. It was something about somebody brings you the light. Just a fan. Can you tell me a little bit about this song? This song really, really moved me.
You've pretty much nailed it when you think about it. See, the odd thing, maybe we're different to everybody else, is you don't, it takes somebody like you to consciously make you think about that song. You sort of get an idea or a seed of an idea for a lyric, and then pretty much blag it, flesh it out, get to the end of the song and sort of then retrofit it and go, this is about X or this is about Y. But when you mention that, I'm sort of started going, pretty much wrote everything on this album from an 80s perspective,
literally,
because that was my time. The 80s, when Bon Jovi were hitting Slippery When Wet. That's where I wanted to be. And now I'm still 35, 37 years later thinking, I wish I would have been doing it then. And this album is probably our best attempt at doing that. I know it sounds a bit...
Should have been released 25 years ago, shouldn't it?
Yeah, 35 years ago.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm talking, 85, 86, 87. That's the same time period you're talking,
Exactly where I did.
And you guys nailed it. As I was listening to it, I was thinking the same thing. If this was 1986, these guys would have been all over MTV, everywhere.
We've had conversations about what you've just said, and the strange thing is, we couldn't have done it then, right? You know, you've got to tip your hat to people like the bands that did it in them days, you know, the Bon Jovis, all the sort of like big guys, because they were in the 20s. We couldn't have written like we're right now when we were 20 odd. You know, if you would have heard songs that I was doing then, you'd be cringing, your toes would be curling. But we thought we were going to be famous. It took us a long time to be anywhere near.
Twilight career, we're calling it.
Yeah,
I mean that's 25.
That's a great point, though. I mean, you think of Bon Jovi, say "Wanted Dead or Alive." You know, that's a road weary, adult song, and those guys wrote it in their 20s. So yeah.
I would have had no chance. You know, I used to tell the lads, I did a 4-track demo in about 1986. And one of the songs was called I'm in Love, right? And it was the corniest, I can still remember the chorus, and the chorus went, ooh, I'm in love, right? I'm like, you should have quit then, mate. You know what I mean?
It'd be nice to go back and take the album in a time machine back to our young selves, wouldn't it? And go, there you go.
Yeah, absolutely. Alibi, love the entire song. You guys started out with kind of like a heavy intro, and then you went total melody after that.
Lee needs to tell you the truth on that.
Okay, tell me the truth on that one, Lee.
Go on.
So, this was the one that I literally finished, didn't I?
Yeah.
And it was one of those songs that I think, what's the best way of describing it? How can I describe this process?
So I had the idea for the song quite a while back, and
it's a long time,
it was a Bon Jovi song. You know, it was me doing my version of a Slippery When Wet track. You know, that idea. And I can play guitar, but I'm pretty poor, right? So then I go and play the idea to Lee, and he's like, all right. Let me live with it for a bit and stuff like that. So then he comes back with all the body of the song, and he's improved it, you know, tenfold. His guitar's in time and in tune, and, you know, massive steps forward from me. But then he's like, I'm working on this intro, and I can hear it in my head. He said, but it's got some keyboards. He said, but I've not put them down. So he played me what virtually was on the album, which was that bam, ba-na-na-na. And I'm sat there going, right, so what's happening with that? And he's like, well, I'm going to put keyboards in the middle of it. So then we lived with it for about 2 or 3 weeks. And we were like, I like that beginning now.
Yeah, let's not bother with the keyboard.
So there should have been a nice fluffy keyboard part over the beginning that would have tied in with the rest of the song. It didn't happen, Lance. Do you know what I mean? It was like, yeah, let's just keep that, because that's us being fingers in the air, heavy metal.
I think I got locked in a Nickelback moment for about 2 minutes.
Yeah. Well, you know, it happens. You know, and those guys have sold a lot of albums, so you know.
Oh hell yeah.
They don't go melodic afterwards.
Title track, Undisputed. What a brilliant intro. And to me, I like songs that are like story songs. And to me, this song was sort of like a story song. You know, like, I mean, I'm not comparing. I'm just giving an example. Another song like that would be like Uncle Tom's Cabin by Warrant, you know?
Yeah.
Songs that tell a story. And that's what I got out of Undisputed. I thought it was brilliant. How did you come up with the whole body of that?
Here we go.
So...
I've got time.
Good lad.
On the first album, on Speedway, we did a couple of voiceovers because Rob, our bass player, was always into that sort of idea. Like you've just said, I mean, we all love Uncle Tom's Cabin. We've all been like, that is what we need to be writing, you know, because them are the sort of gems, aren't they? And Rob's always been like, you know, we should put voiceovers and stuff. And then the sort of school of thought as the band goes forward, then he's like, if we start doing that, then how do you reproduce it live? And people tend to skip that song because you've got that intro, you know, they just want to they'll listen to it first time, etc., etc. But with Speedway, we sort of themed it obviously around a Speedway team, which was all made up, but we enjoyed it. It was just another side of sort of doing an album, you know, sort of doing the artwork and sort of putting a backstory to it. So then this time, once we'd done maybe 6 or 7 songs, we still didn't have an Undisputed, did we?
No.
So we were like, we want to go, should we call it Speedway 2? And we're like, no, it's corny. We need another theme. And then Lee came up with the riff for Undisputed. And we were like, let's do a boxing theme. Let's do that. So then I did my version of an American ring announcer. You need to hear that because it's not good. Right? It's not. It's really not good. I'm from Manchester, New York. You know what I mean? It's like it's poor. So I'm like to the lads, what about this for an intro? So Lee's like, I'm going to ask Paul Lane to do this one day. So then he did it, and you're like, sold. We're having it. That's it. So it was a little bit of a twist on sort of trying to be a little bit like Speedway, where we had that story going on. We knew we couldn't do and wouldn't do a concept album, but it was just a bit of that, like you said, that interest where it's just something out of the ballpark and just something that stands you apart.
And it's work, because obviously the feedback from you there, it's important that people do grasp that idea. So that's always cool to know.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. Complete. What a ballad. I'm a sucker for a power ballad. And the harmonies at the fade, again, I talked about this earlier. Those harmonies were, to me, they were almost Styx-like. You know, when Styx had those harmonies, like on Lady, you know?
Yeah.
I'm a huge Styx fan. Oh, my God.
It was. I was trying to do I'm being honest. I was trying to do a gospel choir. I did all the harmonies on that one.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, this is gospel. It's nowhere near gospel. But
it sounded great, though.
It's blood red gospel.
Yeah.
There you go. Now we get down to the last track. All I want to do, and I always give the bands my last track test. I want to see if they're working as hard on the last song on the album as they are on the first song on the album, you know? Cool. You guys passed with Flying Colors.
Oh, good.
To me, this tune almost had like a Dio feel to it a little bit. You know, that little bit of heaviness that Dio has, a little bit of regalness I'll go with. And there was also a splash of Journey in there that I picked up on. Again, this is just merely me listening to the song. Am I even close?
You are not far off, actually, because strangely enough, I thought it was going to be too heavy. We had another, do you remember Beautiful Lies?
Yeah.
Right. We had about 3 or 4 other tracks that were in contention. But this was the one track that we were going, is this going to be all right? Is it going to be? And I think one of them would be, was it too heavy? As in, not really in sounding, more in playing, you know, like with the pulse of it. So it ended up being sat with, didn't we? And we went, oh my God.
Did that song start with one of your that you was writing for?
Yeah, I was
TV.
I was doing so I was doing a riff for TV.
So Lee writes music for TV shows and stuff like that. And every so often I turn up and he's like, I've been working on this for some American TV show. And you know, when you sort of like, you hear something, you're like, no, you're not. I want that. Right? Can we use that? And it's happened twice. It's happened on the last album.
Yeah.
And this one was the same. He's like, I've been doing this. I don't know whether you called it Southern Rock at one point.
Yeah, it was a Southern Gothic track that I was going to do. Yeah.
So I'm like, has it gone? No. So I'm like, can I have it for a couple of days? So steal it for a couple of days, write a song. Doesn't matter how bad it is, I'm finishing it so that he can't give it away then.
I was sold on it. As soon as he sent it back on Dropbox, he opened it and went, oh, God, that's good. That's definitely going to be on the album.
I don't hear the Journey bit. I was more worried about it being, because the words are similar to the Heart song, aren't they? All I want to do is make love to you. Right. I was worried about people thinking it was a direct Heart rip-off because of the lyrics.
That's interesting. What Journey track would have sprung to mind for you, Lance?
Any of the real melodic stuff, like what's the one? I can't think of it. Girl Can't Help It, maybe something. You know, it was some of the more up-tempo melodic. Girl Can't Help It, Send Her My Love. You know, the stuff like that.
It's like.
I hadn't thought of that. That's why I'm asking.
I sort of think I know what you mean. It's like the harmonies are sort of lower than the main part, which do quite a lot because of the way he sings.
Yeah, and I might have been thinking of like the guitar. You know, I have a note here that says solos / Journey. So maybe I was thinking of your solos sounding sort of Neil Sean-ish, you know?
Yeah, and that way, because there's a few bits in it that are, because I love Neil Sean's playing. I just love his vibrato. Never mind whether I play like him or his vibrato. Yeah. But I actually enjoyed doing that solo actually, and that's why I want. As a selfish one, I'm glad it went on because I love the solo. So
very cool. How tough was it to? I mean, obviously, the way this album flows, It flows really well. How tough was it to get the sequence down? Did you guys spend a lot of time on the sequencing of the songs?
Yeah, we did.
We did spend a lot of time. Yeah, that's the honest truth. It's like you write. It's a bit like a set list. When you write a set list for live playing, you automatically everyone's going to go, yeah, we'll have that's not that. We've written set lists, and we've had 5 or 4 different set lists written down. So when it came to the actual running order, I'll let you take this up because it really ended up being. You wrote it down one way, and we didn't change too much after we got Undisputed. We didn't know it until we got Undisputed, did we? Really?
No, true. Yeah. So what normally happens is, so if we're playing live, I pretty much write the set list because I'm like, I can't sing that first.
Sure.
I can't sing. So it's like that's the set list, and then Lee will come in and go, it's not as bad now, but on a couple of the albums we had sort of drop tunings, and he'd be like, well, I can't do that there because I've got to change the guitar. So normally I did that, but I did it with the albums as well. I'd be like, this is what I'm thinking, and I'd steamroller it, right? I'd be like, okay, this is the running order for the album, and they'd sort of go, okay, because I'd say it that many times, they'd be like, okay, but then. And you'll know the same thing. Sometimes you think a certain song is either great or it's a filler, and then other people will come up and they'll be like, it's my favourite song on the album. And you're like, I don't know anything.
It throws you.
You know, here's me thinking, whatever is the greatest song since sliced bread, and the next song is a filler in my mind. And 10 people come up and go, oh, I love such and such a song, which is your filler. And you're like, well, I know nothing. So on this album, I wrote what I thought was a good set list, right? Sorry, running order. Yeah. And then I sort of threw it over to them and I went, I never get it right. You know what I mean? My decisions are always rubbish. So what do you think? And yeah, we pretty much went with what was there, but
in fact, the only thing was we weren't sure of the last track because we didn't know which one we were going to play. We had 2 to pick from.
Yeah.
So when that went in, it just literally went at the end of the list, but it worked. So
because like Come Alive and Alibi were Alibi Rob didn't like. He didn't want that on, but we were sort of like, no, it's got to go on. It's got to go on. And then it was like, should we drop Come Alive and put a different track on and move All I Want to Do? But whichever, you're never right because somebody will always like a different song. You know, it's tricky.
I'm glad you said that it's got a good flow because that's important feedback to know that we'd actually, whichever order we picked, it worked.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. You know, you had time to crank up, you had time to ride along on a melody, you had time to breathe, no pun intended. If I had to pick my favorite track, I would probably go with Karma. Karma was probably my favorite track.
Sure. There you go.
Yeah.
See, and I would have said all day long, somebody would have gone for Heaven in the Headlights. That'd be like, no,
that was a great one.
Yeah. That in the 80s, I'd be like, that's my favourite song. But, Lance, 3 weeks after, I'd be like, I'm sick of the sight of that song.
Yeah. Here's what for you.
I still got to say, though, out of the gate, you know, This Ain't a Love Song was just a killer opening track. That was just
Love Song. Yeah. You said that one. Pete, what's your favourite on the album?
Caught in the Wreckage.
Mine's Caught in the Wreckage. So it's weird, isn't it? That's the one song that stuck with me. I went, if you was going to say what's your perfect combination of what you want on an album, that was the song that epitomized it, really.
Yeah.
You never know what people like. It's weird.
Yeah, I mean, everybody, you know, sees a different picture or, you know, different colors or whatever with each song, you know, and it's their interpretation, their mood, you know?
Yeah, and sometimes the lyrics that might not really mean anything to me, but sometimes people sort of pick up on a lyric, oh yeah, that it's on with me, and you sort of go, wow, never even thought of that, you know? Mm-hmm. It's great, but it's infuriating, isn't it? You know, It's weird.
It must feel good though when you write a lyric and you chat with someone and they tell you how much it has affected their life. That's got to be a pretty cool feeling.
Yeah, and it doesn't. Listen, we're not Def Leppard or Bon Jovi, so we don't get millions. But we had a guy that lives in Manchester, and he said that Speedway got him through. He'd split up with his wife, And he was like, Speedway got me through. And you're like, you can't even honestly accept that for a while.
It's quite humbling, isn't it?
You know, because you think, I'm not really worthy of that. We're not
rock stars.
Yeah, we're just normal blokes who are doing this because we love music and we want to be in the 80s rock band. And then somebody says, yeah, you're getting me going. You're like, yeah, fair play. That is really nice.
I mean, I would say to you guys, you know, I interviewed a young lady from Australia the other day. She's 18 years old, and I think she's going to be an absolute star. And she's just starting out. And the thing that I told her is never underestimate the joy, the feelings, the power and everything that your lyrics and your music can bring to such a wide array of people. You know, I mean, I'm 56 years old, and she did one song that moved me to tears. Same with you guys. You know, there's probably young people out there as well, you know, her age that are 18 that are listening to this going, my God, you know, this is the greatest thing ever. And it's a tremendous gift that, you know.
That's the thing that you kind of wish that you could put up against the big boys, you know, just having that one chance to go, do you know what? Yeah, let's release that. And you do get a chance to go a bit bigger, but the world's not like that now, is it? So, and we're a bit older.
It's nice when you think about it that even, I know this sounds cliched as, but if you do make a difference to somebody's sort of mood, it is a massive thing, really. You don't listen. Don't sit there in my room, sort of writing lyrics, going, "I'm gonna break 1,000 hearts." But when you think somebody has actually been moved by something, you're right. It's massive. That it is. You know, otherwise, what have I done in my life? Nothing. So it is nice to sort of go, we've actually written a song that people have sort of been touched by. You know, that is cool.
It keeps your faith in the fact that of what you're doing as well. So
exactly. That's what I wanted to impress on her was, and I'll impress that to you guys. You know, what you're doing matters, I guess, is the easiest way to put it. You know, what you're doing matters, you know. And the thing with us being a little longer in tooth, we have the benefit, the way my analogy is when you're young, you're looking out the windshield and the road goes on forever. And you hit like where I'm at now, and you're looking out that windshield. That road isn't quite as long as it was, but you're looking in your rearview mirror and you're seeing all the things, you know. And there's a sort of transition in your life that is, I don't want to say it's a midlife crisis because it's not, but it's just a realization, I think, you know.
That life is not always going to be.
I think you're totally right.
Yeah.
The road in front's getting shorter than the road behind, isn't it?
As long as it takes us to America, through Vermont, into New York, and in the next few years, that'll be nice.
Absolutely. That'd be great. So, yeah, I mean, going forward, the album's come out, you know, you get some videos out. What is the scene over there? I mean, in America right now, it's a little scary. We've had bands that have, you know, trying to tour. Either people in the bands are getting sick, roadies, audiences, tours are starting to shut down again. What's going on over there? Are you guys going to be able to take this out live at all in the foreseeable future?
It's pretty much the same. Probably not as bad as everything shutting down straight away, but there have been tours that have been sort of like been done where I think Lynyrd Skynyrd's just shut down because Ricky Medlock's ill. And we've got a few other festivals that are still in the balance of. We've got one in November which we don't know whether it's going to be on or not yet. We'll have to see. But I think there is a bit of. It's so different. Everywhere's got different things to deal with, but we've got like 40 million people that have been vaccinated. So you think, all right, we're making steps forward. We've got to put up with at least an 18-month backlog of everybody rebooking. Yeah. So when you come to rebook, even if it opens up, we're finding it really difficult to find places where you can actually book to play. And then try and put them into a sort of shorter gap to go and do 4 or 5 dates. It looks like what we're going to have to survive on is either festivals or getting on the tour with a bigger band as a support, something like that.
Yeah. Do you think this whole thing was sort of put together during the pandemic? If the pandemic hadn't been going on, do you think you would have done the same type of album, or would you have gone in a different direction? I guess what I'm asking is, do you think it was pandemic related, or it was going to happen anyway, the way this album came together?
I was dead honest. No, it's not pandemic related, but obviously within that, we were sort of locked away. So we were pretty much probably more concise in writing and trying to churn it out because we couldn't go anywhere. So we kind of got together more. We sort of chatted more, and things seemed to flow more. And don't get me wrong, I do think that, I mean, working with Pete's brilliant. So he doesn't waste time in getting stuff back. And most of the stuff that comes back that he says is shit, I'm like, oh, that's mint that. Then I'll get a message going, I'm going to change it. I'm like, how can you change it? It's already brilliant. And then he'll come back with the changed one, and you're going, oh, okay. So we had a lot of to and fro, which was good. But I don't think it was based on the pandemic as such. And I still think we probably would have written the same album.
Yeah, I think it was just the time. So Lee told this story before. We did the first album, and it did really well, right? For an unknown band, we did great. We went from nowhere to playing all the festivals. It was great. And then I suppose like every band, but we did it in our 50s instead of in our 20s. We were like, don't want to do the same album again. We should have done. We should have stuck to what Fingers in the Air we were good at. And it was mainly my fault. I was like, let's be a bit more modern. Let's get a bigger audience. You can't in your mid 50s. You're not going to attract them sort of people, you know. So we sort of messed about and we thought we'd made massive changes, sort of going. We've gone so contemporary with a new Nickelback and Shinedown combined. This is it. To everybody else, it was just a tiny little shift. Right. But we went even further on the third album and probably alienated people because we are a melodic rock band. No matter how you dress it up, that's what we do as the four of us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we sort of did consciously sit round after the last album, which me and Lee were responsible for. We did it all, but it wasn't that well received, and I still think there's good songs on it, but we were trying to be something we weren't. So then we did have talks saying, let's just do what we know. You know, hopefully we're good at doing what we know, and that's our comfort zone. Let's do the best melodic rock album we could. So
it kind of worked.
It didn't matter that it was pandemic, because all that did was focus us into a smaller timescale. We finished it a lot quicker than we would have done.
Yeah.
But it's the same album as if the world would have been open, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Cool.
Still had a launch party and some gigs.
Yeah, we might have done some shows. Yeah,
absolutely. We're talking with Lee and Pete of Blood Red Saints here for Let's Discuss with Lance Hall, their new album Undisputed, out now on Frontiers Records, able to pick it up everywhere. Gentlemen, I like to finish up my interviews with just some fun questions. I'm hoping these are questions you've never even been asked before. Sound good?
Sounds okay.
Sounds scary.
Yeah, it sounds scary.
All right, Lee, I'm going to ask you to answer this one first, and then Pete, you can chime in, and then however you want to answer after this. But seeing how it was mentioned that you wrote music for television shows, what television show would you pick to place one of these songs off of Undisputed in?
Wow,
good question.
I'll tell you what, the biggest one be Rocky VI, Undisputed.
Nice.
There you go. Nice. How about you, Pete?
I think I've just nicked his Rocky.
Armageddon 2.
Oh, yeah.
Armageddon 2? Okay. Very cool. Pete, is there something outside of music that you're good at? Are you like a good carpenter, a good auto mechanic, anything like that?
No.
Sing or bust, right?
Okay. Everything, but I'm not good at anything.
All right. How about you, Lee?
Oof. As in a hobby or just outside of play? I live and the weird thing is I teach guitar, I write music with the band, I write for TV. So the only thing I do enjoy is actually reading. Very not rock and roll.
No. You can get inspiration from reading, though, you know. So, Lee, other than your own, what was the last music you listened to?
Believe it or not, it was, if I'm dead honest, I'll be dead honest with Diamante.
Okay. Yeah. Great stuff. How about you, Pete?
Oh, God, this is bizarre. So I'm from England. I'm English, and I've never listened to the Beatles. And I was on YouTube a couple of weeks ago, and some YouTube video came on about talking about the Beatles. And I spent all night listening to the Beatles. I mean, I knew the songs, some, I sort of appreciated it more. They were great at what they did, but I never listened all the way through my life.
So do you want to know what the next album's going to be like?
Yeah, Leslie, we're going to go off into a Beatles vein, eh?
Yeah. The only problem is we can't do the Beatles cuts because we haven't got enough air anymore.
Yeah, and also, a side note there, lads, we can't go to India like the Beatles do, but we could go to Vermont.
Yeah, we'll do Vermont. Yeah.
It's going to happen, I'm telling you. Pete, favorite toy growing up as a child?
Oh, wow, these are brilliant, these.
Rally Chopper. You won't know that, will you?
It's kind of like...
It was like a bike, a little bit like a hot rod bike.
Like Hells Angels chopper bikes, you know, the ones with the big handlebars?
The big handlebars and stuff on it.
Nobody could get them. And I got one when I was about 8 or 9, and that was the greatest present I've ever had in my life.
Sweet. How about you, Lee?
One of the most frustrating presents is a Rubik's Cube.
Okay, yeah, all right.
I still can't do it. I tried it. I had everybody. I even cheated and I peeled them off and stuck them all up, and then you realise that they're all going to curl up and everyone's going to know. I was like, oh, no.
Lee, given your choice of household chores, dishes or laundry?
Dishes.
How about you, Pete?
I actually like washing pots.
Told you it was really
Yeah.
Pete, give us a memory of something that decorated your teenage bedroom.
A poster of Farrah Fawcett Majors.
Didn't we all?
And a poster of Paul Stanley crouching down on it with the Alive 2 outfit on.
Oh, nice. I think we all lost our virginity to that poster of Farrah Fawcett.
Yeah, definitely.
How about you, Lee?
I'm giggling because I've got such a cross section. Mine would have been.
Oh, wait, look, I've got one for you.
Oh, wait, I know what I'm going to say.
Go on.
Shall I say, can I go back to him in a second?
Sure.
Okay, I'm going to say Fiona Flanagan.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, Fiona Flanagan, and then 2 pictures of George Lynch and one of Randy Rhoads.
So, quick, if you've got time.
Have you got time, Lance?
I've got time.
Right, Fiona Flanagan. We played Milan, the Frontiers Rock Festival in 2016. And up until this point, I didn't know that Lee had a crush on Fiona Flanagan. And he was there. So we played on the Saturday, I think, and we were in this sort of like minibus. And Lee went looking for our drummer because we were all going back to the hotel. And Fiona and her husband got on the bus. So not averse to sort of winding each other up. I never met her before, so I goes up and I'm like, excuse me, you know, I played in a band today, one of the little bands at the bottom of the bill, and could I ask you to do me a favour? So she's like, yeah, sure. What would it be? So our guitarist has just got the biggest crush on you since he was like 16. Just wind him up, right? So she's like, yeah, sure. So we're all sat on the back seat like 16-year-olds, and Lee gets on with the drummer, sits down. As the bus sets off, Fiona turns around and she's like, "Where's Lee? Where's Lee?" So Lee's like, yeah, "Well, I'm here," you know. So she's like, "Lee, I love you playing. I think you're a great guitarist. I'm coming to England in September." She went, "I'd love you to play in a band," right? And he's like, "Oh my God," right?
I was doing the hoops inside.
But we were playing the same night, and she really did want him to get up on stage, right? But we were playing 300 miles away, so we couldn't. But set him up like a treat, but backfired on us because she really did
want me to do it.
Oh, wow. What a dream that would have been, you know?
Yeah. Right. Absolutely great. But yeah, that was his crush.
Oh, that's awesome. Last one. This is the one we generally have the most fun with. Lee, if they were to make a biopic of your life, what actor would you pick to portray you? And it's your movie, your life. You can pick anybody.
Oh my God.
Oh no.
Well, wow, that's a great question. So it has to be someone that I think looks like with me.
You can pick anybody.
Oh, I can pick anyone.
Yeah.
Do you know what? Look, if anyone's going to do it, Jack Black.
Okay. Very cool. Now, Pete, you've had a little bit of an advantage with this, knowing the question. Who would you pick?
Oh, God, I've just been panicking Saturday thinking, who could I say? Because I know I'm going to get the rip taken out. I mean, whoever I say. Physically, it's got to be somebody with a massive physical head, because apparently my head's massive. And now I'm struggling to pick somebody. I'd go Tom Hanks.
Okay. All right. Very cool. Very cool.
A-listers, have you noticed? A-listers.
Tom Hanks.
Oh, absolutely. You know,
I'd love to say Brad Pitt, but we couldn't ugly him up enough.
Yeah, a lot of guys, Brad Pitt, Johnny Depp, stuff like that. Tom Cruise is another one. So
Yeah, but I'm not going to lie to myself.
So my daughter once heard me ask that question, and she says, "Well, Dad, who would you have play you?" And I always picked Matthew Broderick around the time of Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Has always been.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
So,
Cool.
Yeah, good one.
Well, gentlemen, this has been a blast to talk to you tonight. Over here in Vermont, where you're going to come someday, and we're going to do some traveling and some sightseeing and everything else, and you can play a little backyard party for me, and we'll have some fun.
On the email, we'll be checking accommodation, say Lance's Garage.
Yeah,
absolutely. There you go. Once again, Lee and Pete from Blood Red Saints, the new album Undisputed, out now on Frontiers. Just a fabulous slice of 80s melodic rock with a little bit of heaviness, some great harmonies, ballads. You guys have it all. A fantastic album. Be proud of what you've done here.
Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Was there anything, gentlemen, that I didn't ask you didn't get to talk about in this interview that you didn't get to? The floor is yours if you need.
Do you know what?
I think you just battered us into submission then with the last question.
The last question did beat.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I will let you go to enjoy the rest of your evening. It's probably getting a little late over there in England, and I look forward to hopefully having you guys come to Vermont.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for
your time.
Take care.
Take care, Lance. See you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.